Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense. In 2019, a fragrance was released that became one of my favorite fall fragrances to use, at least in the newer fragrance releases, by Hugo Boss, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Absolute. Boss Bottled Absolute is a Eau De Parfum concentration. It's just very deep, rich. It is slightly gourmand. It's got that slight sweetness to it that makes it very attractive, but also super masculine. Just ended up being a very solid fragrance for fall, and also one that I'm looking very much forward to wearing this year more of, getting more experience with. And recently in the Hugo Boss bottled line, Hugo Boss released Boss Bottled Eau De Parfum, adding to that rich DNA that we love to sport during cooler or fall weather. So when we return, we'll take a closer look at this fragrance, see if it's worth picking up, that and more, so stay tuned. Hey guys, and welcome back. You know, someone once said that presentation is everything. And with fragrance, I don't think that's always the case, but I personally have really enjoyed the two types of presentation that Hugo Boss Bottled has had. They've had this standard bottle type, and then they came up with a more noir or sepia looking type bottle for the scent line of fragrances, and so really have enjoyed the presentation of this. And of course the reason we're here today is to check out their most recent release, and that is Hugo Boss Bottled Eau De Parfum. So let's check out that presentation. So a couple things to notice about the presentation that's a little bit different than the standard Boss Bottled Absolute. Of course, this is solid, this is clear, which I really like. I like the little bit more ritzier gold though. But you'll notice the top of the cap on Boss Bottled Absolute is plain. The top cap of this one is actually engraved Boss, and underneath the Boss is Hugo Boss. So it's a kind of a nice little touch or nuance there, because that's kind of the theme I think they're going with. It's going to be something a little bit more upscale, a little bit richer, deeper. What's that word that Christian Bale used in his role in Empire of the Sun? Opulence. There's opulence. So it's kind of a rich, ritzy, or opulent feeling or nuance to this fragrance. If you notice how simple they've gotten on the sticker on the bottom, it's literally just the number of the batch, 0139. So for those of you interested in checking out the batch at checkbatch.com, 0139 is the batch. You've got Boss etched into the glass, and then in gold, you've got Hugo Boss underneath that. So pretty much that's it for the presentation. Of course, this fragrance is a new 2020 release, Perfumer Honorine Blanc, as we created it. Let's talk a little bit about that note breakdown. Hugo Boss Bottled Eau De Parfum in the top has bergamot, apple, clary sage, and Madagascan black pepper, with heart notes of cinnamon, green cardamom, chestnut, nutmeg, and sage, resting on a base of vetiver, musk, leather, sandalwood, and cedar. So looking at the note breakdown, it's almost like the best of the best in the fall lineup of notes that we like to appear in some of our favorite fall and winter fragrances. So let's go ahead and check out that juice. That's what we're here for, and see what it's like. Of course, first we're going to check it out on a strip and then do our skin test. Okay, once you prime the atomizer, it spits a good bit of juice out. Okay. I guess because I had Boss Bottled Absolute in my mind, I expected a little bit more richness in the open. This one is just meh. It's kind of a meh opening, to be quite honest. I guess the biggest thing that hits me in the presence of the open is bergamot. Bergamot's not necessarily a note that I expected to be able to pick apart. To me, I would expect bergamot to be part of just the background, kind of not necessarily a substantive or predominant note, but a supportive role, just kind of like a nuance to keep everything together and to balance everything out. Although it's probably doing that, I'm also being able to pick it out is kind of interesting. So it seems like cinnamon, chestnut, nutmeg, and sage are combining to be similar to the cashmerean note that I believe is in Boss Bottle Absolute. The cashmerean is one of my favorite, again, fragrant notes. It's very woody, it's slightly sweet, similar to sandalwood, but a little bit darker and richer. This is a lot more subtle than what I anticipated it being. That's I don't want to say the word it's a little bit disappointing. I was expecting more. Honestly, I was expecting more out of that open. I can't pick up on the leather note there. It must be very light. Like vetiver is a really good one. Sandalwood is a nice milky creamy note. Cedar, of course, is a woody note. Musk, of course, is a good fixative in the base there. Vetiver, sandalwood, and musk are all very dry. Not quite done drying down yet though. I do kind of get the leather now, but it is a very light leather. It's kind of a linear leather, as it were. I like it. I do. I like it. It's not of the rich type of leather that we're used to for fall fragrance, but it's very dry. It's the kind of leather that's similar to the Vince Camuto flagship fragrance, which I also believe is a good fall fragrance. It's similar to that leather, so it's not super outstanding. It's more of a background note, but it is there. I feel like I'm gonna like the dry down a lot better on skin though, so let's go ahead and check that out. So go ahead and give a couple good blasts to my hand, and instead of you guys waiting with me, I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video for a few minutes because I'd like to wait a good 15 minutes before I give my final thoughts on this fragrance. But I will say up front, I was really expecting kind of more than what was given in the open. So the open is a lot more pleasant. However, it's a little bit more subtle and a little bit more nuanced than what I was expecting. And when you spray on this fragrance, Hugo Boss Bottle Absolute, there's like no question that you're getting a deep, rich, dark, slightly dusty, cashmere-centric fragrance, and that's what I really like about this fragrance. So the cinnamon, the cashmere, wintertime favorite mental imagery like roasting chestnuts over a fire, which nobody does, but the mental imagery is super pleasant and is reminiscent of the best of the holidays, you know, family get-togethers and gatherings and things like that, and just the whole holiday spirit. That's kind of imbibed by Hugo Boss Bottle Absolute. Not something that I'm necessarily picking up in this one. But again, I don't want to jump the gun. This is a first impression, so let's give it a few minutes to dry down and we'll give you my final thoughts on it. On the positive side, one of the notes that I'm picking up really well in this is similar to the Armani Code Absolute behind me here over my right shoulder, and that is an apple note. And that's the note that I really like probably the most. Between cashmere and apple, the Maninka fruit, and the scent flankers, is probably one of my favorite notes in Hugo Boss Bottle. The apple note to Hugo Boss is similar to, you know, a baseball bat and glove in the game of baseball. It's integral to the formula. It's integral to the whole vision and the idea behind the fragrance. It's really what it's all about, is that apple note. That apple note is done really well. Now the leather is more predominant as it dries down. So in a nutshell, this one is not going to be one that you're going to buy for the open. The open is underwhelming, to say the least. There's really not a lot going on in that open. It's almost like a photographer trying to take a photo of a family of 14 people, and they're trying to set up the scene. It's similar to the open of this. It's kind of setting up the scene for the mid to the dry down. In the mid, some of the notes start to become a little bit more individualistic, and you can pick them out a little bit more, including like the nutmeg, the cinnamon, the apple specifically. And in the dry down specifically, the leather note comes predominant, which I really like. Clary sage plays a role in kind of getting them all together. It's like the ant that calms everybody down and gets them centered, gets them actually smiling for the photograph. Bergamot is just an introduction that burns off very quickly. It's like almost barely there in the open. Definitely gone in the mid to the dry down. Black pepper is there to help lift that Madagascan black pepper, which is a little bit deeper, richer and darker of a black pepper, is helping everything lift off the skin. Similar to clary sage is kind of a buoyancy note or notes. And then the sweetness is brought to the fore from the sandalwood, the cardamom, and the apple working together. So with all of those different flavors and notes kind of aligning from the mid into the dry down, it's kind of a little bit of a mess in the open. So finally it comes together in the mid and in the dry down to become a very pleasant yet subtle fragrance for fall and cooler weather, and potentially for winter. Similar to Code Absolute, this fragrance is going to have two sides when it comes to what it's best used for. Now this can definitely be worn casually for daytime and nighttime wear, but it also can be used in an upscale environment. It can be dressed up just as appropriately as can be dressed down, but I would say primarily you want to use this for casual wear, daytime, nighttime, knock around fragrance. I'll be interested to see as an Eau De Parfum what the longevity is like. Again, in a first impression, can't really speak to longevity. It's projecting decently off my skin. I would say this is going to be a good 1.5 to 2 hour fragrance in terms of the bubble that it creates. In terms of the sillage trail, hopefully it will leave a really good sillage trail. It's extremely pleasant in the mid, extremely pleasant in the dry down primarily. Is it going to be worth getting? That question I can't really answer. I'm somewhat of a completionist, so I really enjoy the Hugo Boss bottle line, so I do have them all. Mostly all. There's a couple of ouds that I think I'm missing that are hard to find, but for the most part, I really enjoy, I think I'm going to enjoy wearing this. I will talk more about the longevity when I do a full-on review. But honestly, it's really hard for me to recommend getting this if you have Boss Bottle Absolute. If you're a fan of Absolute, you'll probably like this as well, but is it worth purchasing at the new price of a new fragrance right now? I would say not necessarily. Either get a smaller version of it, the 50 ml bottle, or wait until it hits discounters would be my recommendation. However, again, it is a very pleasant fragrance. I do like it. It does carry that Boss Bottle DNA, primarily that apple and some of the fragrant notes in there, making almost like a cashmere in appearance. There you have it, guys, my thoughts on Hugo Boss Bottle Eau De Parfum. I'll do a full-on review in the future once I've had a chance to wear it in various situations. But with the cost of a brand new fragrance, I wouldn't necessarily spend that on that. You'll get this for much less. So you can get this for about 50, 60 bucks right now. It's a really good deal. I'll actually link a couple of places where you can purchase this if you're interested in picking it up for your fall or winter rotation. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my first impressions and unboxing video of Boss Bottle Eau De Parfum. As always, thank you so much for your support of my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.